Peace, ladies and gentlemen. What's really good? Welcome back to the show. We are back with another one here tonight, and we are chilling with the guy that currently is the talk of New York, so to speak. Got a hot album that's right now buzzing in the streets, and here from out of Brownsville, Neva Ran Neva Will, we have with us on the line, Hectik, the Latin assassin. Yo, Hectik, what's good, man? Welcome to the show.
What's good, everybody? How's everybody doing? Hopefully everyone's good. I want to thank you for having me, EMillio.
No problem, man. We definitely appreciate you for joining us. Thank you as well, man. So with that being said, welcome to the show once again. And normally what we like to do is we like to give this first part right here to the artist to give them an opportunity to tell the audience a little bit about themselves. So if you would, man, please, the floor is all yours.
Yeah, no problem at all. Like you said, from Brownsville, Brooklyn, New York. Lived there to about like junior high. Then, I lived in the Sheepshead Bay in Brooklyn for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Then I went out to the X and I stayed in the Bronx. My pops lived in the Bronx. My parents split up when I was at a young age. And my pops lived in the Bronx. So I stood out there by like Tremont, East Tremont, 179 by the concourse over there by like Fordham Road. And then I came to Florida. I'm in Port St. Lucie, Florida. Kind of bounced back and forth. Right now I'm currently in Florida, but I'll be going back to New York here soon. Puerto Rican. Married, got kids. And just came up, got the ups and downs of life or whatnot, but shout out to my hometown, my home state, NY. I love it. You know what I mean? Like, that's home. And you know what I mean? Like, I appreciate, I go out there, I do, been doing performances the last like year. And going into this year, and it's been awesome, performing in NY.
Mm-hmm.
And being able to, perform in Brooklyn at different spots, certain days. It's been a good couple of years.
No doubt about that. No doubt about that, man. We appreciate you, man, once again for joining us. And I would like to ask you, man, that the next time you come back to New York, please do us all a favor. Bring some of that Florida weather with y'all, man, because,
right now, like, to them or whatever, like, it's starting to get a little, like, to them, like, a little, to them, like, in the 40s, 50s or whatever, to them it's like cold. So like today, like in the next like week or so, it's supposed to be like in the 50s or whatever, and they're like, yeah, here comes the cold front. And I'm like, man, you don't know no cold front. Like, next week, I'm going back to New York because I got 2 shows to perform at. One is opening up for Billy Dance and Nems. Shout out to Full Blast Booking on that. And then also in Nyack doing Woo Wednesdays with Tim and the whole like Woo Tang affiliation that they got going on out there. So I'm gonna be there next week. And I was just talking to someone I work with that was just up there last week and was like, yo, it's like 20 degrees. I'm like, oh man. I'm like, damn. But over here ain't none. I mean, it's a different type of cold when it gets like real cold, like in the 30s and stuff. Cause I'm over by like the water and stuff like that. So you get that like wind chill. You know what I mean?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
The degrees may not be like that, but the wind might be like 15, 20 miles an hour.
Oh, yeah.
Or whatnot. And then, so it really be like the windy, you know what I mean? Like when that breeze hits, and then it's like that cold, crisp breeze because, from the water. So it's a different type of cold, but when it does, but, I feel you on that weather because winter does not last long. We don't have a spring. Our spring is summer. Our summer is summer.
Right.
Our fall is summer.
Well, they don't call.
and our winter is fall. You know what I mean? Like that's how it is.
Well, you know they don't call Florida the sixth borough of New York for no reason, because so many people from New York retire and go to Florida or move and go to Florida, and I just be sitting there like, yo, man, if there's one thing I could change about New York right now, it would definitely be the weather, man. I would love to have that good year-round tropical weather out here.
It is good, but it is like that. And even when I moved out here, because basically moved out here because, like you said, family, my grandmother ended up retiring, moved out here. Then all of a sudden, like my pops, we followed my pops and like my dad's side of the family first. And like eventually, years later, my mom moved. But while we was out here, there was a bunch of New Yorkers already out here, like all different nationalities and stuff. And then all of a sudden, like, you know what I mean? Like Orlando was kind of like big at that time, or like in the late 90s, because like mostly like all the Puerto Ricans, and they wasn't like all the New York Puerto Ricans was going to Orlando. So Orlando was like straight up like Puerto Rican town. And out here was like New York, and then all of a sudden it's like everybody started finding out about this place. And now it is populated. The money, everything is raising inflation out here to where like everybody was coming out here because it was cheap. Oh, it's not getting cheap anymore. You know what I mean? Like it's not like what it was then. You know what I mean? Like property tax and stuff like that is getting up to like you might as well stay in New York because you're paying the same thing.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like outside of the weather, like you said, and a good place to, like, if you got kids, obviously, and if you don't want them to grow up in the hood, which none of us want them to go through what we went through in like the late 80s, early 90s and stuff or whatnot. I'm a young 80s baby. So like obviously this is the spot to like raise kids or like the spot to retire and stuff like that. But like all that like glitz of being like, you get more bang for your buck and all that stuff like that is dead. That's like dead.
I hear that, man. But with the cold weather and everything right now, the hot thing you got going on is this album that we gonna get into, and that's Life Is Always Hectik Part 2. So, this is the second installment to your first release of this particular project. So with that being said, what was the mindset that went behind putting this project together from the first one to the second one now? And what has been the response that you have been getting for both?
The first one, I got a very good response. The first one was outside of the song I did for my wife. Most of everything on the song was like everything on that album. Part 1 was like in your face, hard boom bap, like grime and gritty, bars. And it was kind of like a coming out party of like, all right, finally things, I've been doing this for a long time, but, life be life and living out here was kind of hard to get in the studios and do certain music because obviously in the South there's a different sound. And there's some areas where they got the underground hip hop in Miami or Orlando or Tampa, but for the most part, it's like today's sound out here is what usually everybody's doing. And, from part 1, got good feedback, with the producers I worked with, the beats I chose and everything. And then part 2 was like more like, during that journey of part 1 and going to do shows and going to do certain things and ciphers and being a part of certain platforms like Full Blast Booking, Punchline Academy, Shade 45, Grind Mode Cypher, shout out to Lingo, AOK, the infamous Amadeus, and boy Kenny, Deucebug, Full Blast, so I got to meet a lot of artists and connect and either meet online or meet, face to face a couple times because we were doing shows or, I went on tour, did a 4-show thing, and a lot of guys did, the 4. So Sweet. It has a little bit more features than it does in part 1. Pretty much used a lot of the same producers as part one, but there's some different ones. And also part two was like a little bit more grounded, where I still had tracks that were like bars, but then I also gave them topics and gave them stuff about life and my life, and talked about so many different things. So it was a more versatile album. You know what I mean? Like, so, and the same thing, got good feedback for that as well. I was able to shout out to Omega Level Records. They had a contest where they had a couple artists and a track from an album that they were dropping it, and whoever won, they did a free physical distribution where they printed up CDs and cassettes, and I was able to win that contest. So shout out to them, and was able to press, and have physical copies of Life Is Always Hectic Part 2. Even though it's on all DSPs, just like part one. But, part two was, okay, let's get into detail about me and to show my range and, just talk about different things and talk about things that like songs like America, where I'm talking about things of like everyday struggle and everyday life and what people go through or think, or mental health. Or then you got songs like Walk Through Storms, where I'm talking about like my life or what have you. You know what I mean? And then you still got songs like One of a Kind that is still that boom bap in your face. Or you got like My Block, which is, talking about coming up.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites right there.
Yeah, coming up, and shout out to Dr. G, who made the beat. Worked with Noid before, so we got Noid on that one. Shout out to Errol Flynn, aka Evil. He was the first guy who jumped on from Rhode Island. It's my brother right there. And Noid jumped on it first, so he talked about Queensbridge a lot in the projects. So then I had Evil did the hook, and he turned it into My Block, and I wrote my verse, and I tried to keep it more like Noid's tip. And then Evil ended up, sticking with the same topic. And, so it was kind of like, all right, like part one, I have This Is My Kingdom, where in the hook, I'm talking about New York and where I'm from and try to big it up and everything. And then you got My Block to go into detail of what was going on in New York when I was coming up.
And it's definitely a dope collective of work that you got and that you put together with this particular project. And now I want to ask you, like, what is your goal for your music? You mentioned earlier that you've been at this for quite some time. So, like, what is your goal that you have for your music, and what do you have overall, an objective that you're looking to accomplish as an artist?
To keep going and, keep trying to build accolades and be able in the position to where make some good income out of this, even if it's something that's like a part-time pay. Obviously you want to get to the point where you don't have to work to make money off music, and I could just focus on music. So obviously that's part of the goal, but also is to do certain accolades. Like, I was able to go to the basement in the Punchline Academy. And they have a thing where it's like graduation, where like you go to the basement first, and then like you go to this actual studio and freestyle like afterwards, and that's like a graduation. So that's like a goal that I had to do that. And other things like I got bars or on the radar, and keep making albums, work, keep trying to make connects with artists that are in the game today that can work with. Like I have some stuff coming out with Black Poet, I have some stuff coming out with Aguilar, I have some stuff coming out with Rex, I got some stuff coming out with Rusty Jukes. Actually next week I have my single drop, When I Speak, featuring Black Poet with Amadeus 360, the Beat King on the beat. And that will drop on all DSPs next Friday. So, and those are the kind of things that, trying to do is, work with artists of my time and artists in the game, and gain that respect, and, just keep going because, working through that time and doing back and forth and being young and not knowing the business, and now I know the business side of it a little bit more, as I'm older, because obviously it's still business at the end of the day. And so at that time, being a kid, being a young kid, doing it, trying to do it, you know what I mean? And also, I got married to my first wife young and had kids young, so I had family life, so it was kind of hard to do both. And then you fall in and out with people, so that's like, you got studio, don't got studio, then it's like, then other things will come on, get to do some things, but then that will fall out. And then finally, for the last, like 2-3 years, was able to get stuff to do steady, and be able to go have a studio steady, be able to have an engineer that knows my sound, and make sure everything sounds clean, and doing videos, and being able to do shows, and not only do these shows, open up for some of these legends like KRS-One, and like I just said, Billy Dance or Capadonna, I opened up for him.
Nice.
Rome Street, R.A. the Rugged Man, or whatever. I got in April, Conway the Machine.
Ooh, that's dope.
So yeah, so out in Brooklyn in the Meadows. So I'll be out there for that. So I got the one opening Billy Dance that's next week, on Thursday. That's in Long Island in Amityville, AMH, and like I said, in Nyack the night before, doing Woo Wednesdays.
You kind of remind me of another Brooklyn rapper by the name of Grand Surgeon. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him, but he's another rapper that's been in this for a minute on the independent level, and has like a very impressive resume of various collaborations and projects working with other artists. That's pretty dope, man. So like, with that being said, being that you are an independent artist and having worked with so many established artists that a lot of people either call them legendary status or give them iconic status, how does that feel to you, knowing that you're an artist that's been out here working hard and you've been able to get yourself into these situations and create these different types of opportunities for yourself? How does that make you feel as an artist?
Awesome. It makes me feel, because I got to work with guys like Chris Rivers, being Puerto Rican, and obviously Pun, and what Pun meant to us and what Pun meant to me, and being able to do a song with his son. I was a big Mobb Deep fan, so being able to do something with Big Noyd. Obviously, I'm from Brownsville, so being able to do something with Billy Dance. Being obviously a big Wu fan. I got still to this day, I got 36 Chambers in the vinyl, and that's when it dropped. So, or whatnot. So there might be some scratches on there, but like, that was when it, because how old it is. But you know what I mean. So, working with Capadonna, and some people with Cap, some people have critics with him, and I think the verse that he did for me, that shit was fire. That I was blessed to get a good thing, because everybody talk about certain artists and they have their certain things or whatnot, but being able to work with all these guys, and something, and like speaking of Capadonna, like tracks like Ice Cream, and I loved Only Built for Cuban Links. It's one of my top 5 albums. And that's kind of where he made his appearance. And we bought The Pillage, when he dropped his first album and stuff like that. So working with all these guys has been awesome. It's been like vindicated, especially working through where, I know that there's, artists that do stuff and, it's like lease space and people might have like the same verse that they did. And,
Yeah.
I've been blessed to where working with guys that these are exclusive verses that are not, recycled or you're not going to hear anywhere else.
Mm.
You know what I mean? You're going
Yeah.
to hear it straight one time, and that's, the song with me. So, like, all that together in the ball just feels good, you know what I mean? To be like, yo, at least I was able to do that. And, continue on to do that and build relationships with people like a Agalon or Aguilar or a Black Poe to where, we talk on social media, we talk on, text through the phone, with each other every now and again, stuff like that. So, that's where it's at. It's not just the music, but building a friendship. You know what I mean? Like, and a respect.
Absolutely.
So, it's just been awesome. And, I want to keep going and keep working with artists that, whether past or present, that, to do that as well. You don't want to, I don't want to stay, never stay complacent. You got to keep going for more. Just because you did something, it's like, all right, I did it. It's okay to enjoy the moment because, of course, you got to enjoy these moments. They don't last. But at the same time, you can't stay content. You can't stay complacent. You got to keep those accolades building to get to where you want to go.
That is an absolute fact and a gem for all of y'all out there that's tuned in and listening right now. So being that you give us all a little sample size of what you're dealing with here so far at the start of 2025, give us a little outlook of what we can expect going forward for the rest of this year.
Well, for the rest of this year, I got I'm part of this crew, God Division. We got a bunch of rappers. Also, I got my best friend Gamble's a Lucky Bastard. We're called the Empire. We're gonna drop 2 projects this year. Also with God Division, there's another clique of rappers. They Two-Face Media. Shout out to them. And we're doing a collaboration album. So that's pretty much done. So that'll be out in the next couple months, and I'll have a bunch of verses on that project, as well as dropping some singles. Like I said, I got single dropping next week with Black Poet, with Amadeus 360, the Beat King on the beat, as well. And shout out to him because he heard my music and loved it, and you know what I mean, recommended MJ, and was like, yo, your music is sick, you just missed a promotion, and got me with MJ and made it happen to where he's like, yo, you know what I mean, like, yeah, I'm you work with some heavy cats, like, you know what I mean, I'm down with working with you as well, and blessing me with a sick beat and doing it custom and everything. So he didn't give me something that like he had in the stash. You know what I mean? He made a specific beat specifically for me and Black Poet for the track. So you know what I mean? Like, that was dope. So stuff like that, not just meeting with artists, but also producers that has credits of working with certain artists like himself, who's worked with people like MOP and Coogee Rap and Rusty Jukes and Skylo and RJ Payne and other guys that he's worked, obviously now Black Poet, you know what I mean, Craig G. So, obviously he's a well-respected producer in the game, so to get that's just as big too. Sometimes it's not just the artist. If you could get a producer who's worked with, like, has a great resume, that's another blessing, because that producer is well known. He got credits behind his name, like he's not your average beat maker, because you got cats in the game that did that. So, I got that. I got, like I said, I got a single after that. I got a single with Aguilar that's gonna be dropping. My man Dr. G's another one who has a lot of credits and worked with guys like Havoc and Big Noid and Onyx and KRS-One and Capadonna and Big Noid and Chris Rivers, Ill Bill, Black Rob. He actually has a track with Black Rob that he can't put out due to the fact Black Rob passed away, and he doesn't want no problems with the estate. You know what I mean? But
right.
He's worked with a lot of cats too. So, I got that coming, and I have a little EP. He's only gonna have a couple tracks on it with producer named Boomtack Beats. He was on part 1. He was on part 2. He's the one who did Get Busy With It, and on part 2, he's the one who did Microphone Gods. And then come out with Life Is Always Hectic Part 3 and end it, of that from part 1 to part 3, and conclude it there. And the next project I'll work, obviously it will be called something else, but you know what I mean, like want to drop another solo project sometime this year, whether it's the summer or the fall or even the winter. But my plan is to do the music, and as well as getting these shows, and doing these shows. Like I said, I got shows next week. I got the show in April with Conway, and that won't be the last of shows that I will do this year. So they can catch me too performing up north, New York, New Jersey, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Connecticut, Philly, shout out to Fleet, Swag, Philly, Swag 100, shout out to him. And obviously, if I get something down here in Florida before I go back to New York, we plan on moving back to New York, but living upstate and not in the city.
Okay.
Because one of the reasons is getting all those shows up north. It gets kind of hard, flying back and forth and stuff.
Right. No, I can definitely dig that. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're just now joining us, we're now tapped in with Brownsville, Brooklyn's own Hectik the Latin Assassin, joining us as tonight's guest. And with that being said, Hectik, I want to say thank you, man, for taking the time out to join us here on the show. We truly do appreciate you for tapping in with us and sharing your experience with us, and also talking about your new project as well. And with that being said, before we go, I want to give you the opportunity real quick for everybody out there that's listening right now, for anyone that would like to, check out your music, for anyone that would like to book you for their show, or for any other matters that people will want to reach out to you for, how can they make that possible?
On pretty much on Instagram and, all DSPs, Hectik the Latin Assassin. They can contact me at hectikthelatin@gmail.com. Linktrees, Hectik the Latin Assassin. The only two social medias that's different on Facebook, Hectik Neva Ran Jr., and that's spelled HECTIK. And then on Twitter, Hectik from BK. But everywhere else, TikTok, YouTube, Snapchat, Instagram, Hectik the Latin Assassin. For bookings, Hectik the Latin Assassin @gmail.com.
That's all it is.
It does THE, not DA.
Okay. That's all it is. Latin Assassin, Hectik, man, we definitely appreciate you, man, once again. And for everybody else out there, man, we want y'all to stay around and keep it locked right here to the EMillio EgBar show, because coming up after this, we're going to get into an album showcase. We're going to take a listen to this brand new project that we have from our man Hectik here tonight. And we're going to take a listen to Life Is Always Hectic Part 2. So if you get ready to go and get your drinks, your refills, re-roll that gas, or or whatever the case may be, folks, go ahead and do that right now. But make sure y'all following us all over social media at the EMillio EgBar Show, and hit us up on YouTube at the EMillio EgBar Show. Be sure to like and share the video and hit that notification bell to stay up to date for any video that we drop after you subscribe, y'all. Stick around. We'll be back with much more right after this.
The most recognized source of hip-hop and R&B on the planet. This is the EMillio EgBar Show. Real hip-hop and R&B.